So today I'm here to tell you all about the things that I've recently read and I'm currently reading, and this is my first one of 2016. Obviously some of these books I read in 2015, but I did read 3 of them within 2016 so far, and it's only the 3rd as I'm filming this, so exciting times. The first thing that I'm talking about today I actually read about 2 weeks ago. It's Lovely, Dark and Deep by Amy McNamara. This book follows our main character Ren, and we have the information that she got into a car accident with her boyfriend and her boyfriend died, and now she's sort of secluding herself from the rest of the world. Instead of going off to college, she went up to her dad's house up in Maine where he has a studio and he works on his art all day, and she went there for complete solidarity, which may or may not be so good for her psyche. She meets someone there to talk to, and then a romance blossoms. This book was enjoyable because it was really beautifully written, and I hadn't read a YA hard-hitting contemporary in a while, and I really kind of missed the angstiness of characters. The weird thing about this angsty main character though is I was able to justify her angstiness. It was annoying at times, but then I was like, hey Dana, calm down, all this stuff happened to her, of course realistically she is going to act like this. And that kind of went for all the characters within this novel. Like, there was a lot of good in them and a lot of bad in them, and there was no one or the other. And if there was a character doing a not so nice thing, there was always justification behind it. So really well written, a good story. It was very predictable though. Therefore I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Would recommend it if you like just YA contemporaries. I think any YA contemporary lover would really enjoy it. The next few things I don't have with me, but they are Paper Girls issues 1 through 3. A trade volume of a graphic novel usually comes with issues 1 through 5 or 1 through 6 in them, so these were very tiny, just issues of a comic starting out. This comic is written by Brian K. Vaughan, and I forget the artist's name, but I will leave it right here. The images were so gorgeous, very pigmented. Ugh. It was lovely. It's about these teenage paper girls that have a route, and they go out at 4 in the morning, and they all go together obviously because it's a scary place, 4 in the morning for a bunch of teenage girls. But they're very tough-skinned. They feel like they can handle anything. They're very strong female leads. They go out and there's all these monster-ish things all around town, and just people that look like they could be from other time zones. Would recommend for anybody that purchases issues, but if the story sounds really interesting to you and you like the Saga series, just look out for it. Have it on your radar so you can get the trade volume when it comes out, because it's really good so far. Next 2 things I read is Ms. Marvel Volume 2 and Ms. Marvel Volume 3 by Willow Wilson. Ms. Marvel is a new Pakistani teenage hero. The old Ms. Marvel is now Captain Marvel, and she has taken the throne. The first volume of this I read about 6 months ago, and it was good. It was a nice introduction. I didn't feel like I wanted to grab for the second one right away. I did keep thinking back about the main character because the main character is really enjoyable and quirky. So, second volume ended up being so much better for me. It talks all about how teenagers are sort of blamed for the economy and the environment right now. And I think the fact that there was a real world issue in here, like compacted with all the other chaos, I really needed that. Like, I needed this to be grounded somewhere. And it was, and I really liked it, and I believe I gave this one 4 stars. Ms. Marvel Volume 3 got so much better. This book talks about rape culture, which is obviously a very serious topic as well, but they talk about it in a way where it's not triggering whatsoever, which was mind-blowing to me. It was talked about in such a subtle way, and I loved that. And with the serious topic that really grounded this, I also learned so much more about the side characters, which is something else that I really needed from this series. Bruno is a side character, which I knew nothing about before, and they also talk so much more about her family, and this was perfect. This was a perfect addition. This was 5 out of 5 stars. Ms. Marvel Volume 3. So if you had a hard time picking up Ms. Marvel before, if you were iffy about the first volume, it gets so much better. And if you love it already, keep reading. The next thing that I read was Giant Days. I've been in a very graphic novel-y kick. They've all had very strong female characters in it, which I've loved. Giant Days is about 3 roommates in college. They just started their freshman year, and they're all getting to know each other, and they're all perfect. The characters are just so themselves. Like, nobody else could have made up these characters. They're just incredibly one-of-the-kind characters, and they're all drawn perfectly, and they go through situations which are realistic and not realistic at the same exact time. I would love this if it were a sitcom. It also has some synchronicity to it, which I wasn't expecting. There are little breaks in the story, like chapters, which were basically like where one issue ended and the next issue started. And sometimes issues are kind of episodic. They don't really tell a tale. And here they always look back at the previous issue. So, really great. I appreciate it. Sitcom-esque with really great female characters. You should read it. The next thing I read was the first thing that I read in 2016. That was They're Not Like Us. They're Not Like Us follows this girl that is about to commit suicide. That's where the first panel is. She is just on a building, looking down, and then she wakes up and she's in a hospital and someone's stealing her away from the hospital. Turns out the reason why she was trying to commit suicide is because she always has all of these noises in her head and they won't stop. And it turns out that she has telepathic abilities, and that's the reason that she could always hear so many people in her head. And the people that are stealing her also have different abilities. The way that all these people with different abilities come together, it's almost like a cult culture sort of thing. So that was really interesting to read about. This book really delves into if anyone could be really truly good or truly bad. And I kind of feel like that's overdone. Or at least for me personally, I feel like I've read a lot of things, or I've ingested a lot of media lately, and I just feel like all of these things tried to dabble in this same sort of story. So for me personally, it wasn't that enjoyable. I believe I gave it 2 stars. I liked the characters in this book. Like, I liked some of the characters that had different abilities, and I thought that was really interesting, and I thought that the way that they told the story was interesting. But for me personally, it just seemed slightly overdone. But if you think that the summary was interesting to you, I would give it a go. It's not like it was terrible by any means. The writing wasn't terrible. Next thing was Essex County, and this was my first Jeff Lemire book, and this is, surprise, another graphic novel. But it was a very literary graphic novel. It was told in very few words, and really the main story was told by the structure of the story, which was awesome. It was told by many family ties and how each person was connected, and it had a lot of heart in it. It talked about death and rebirth and your absolute passions and how sometimes they can be ripped away from you. And it was a completely character-based story, and you end up feeling for every single character. It's really all I can say about it. I don't have a summary other than that. It was great, really great. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't give it 5 stars because, I don't know, like structurally it's genius. Like, it's absolutely genius. And the only thing that I can say for justifying my rating and not giving it a 5 star instead of just giving it the 4 star is I really just wanted more writing. It's a very, very simple, like told in very few words story. And more words, just I felt like it would have made the story so much more beautiful for me. At the same time, the simplicity is what makes it so beautiful. I don't know, so rating it was a struggle for me, but I would recommend it to anybody. It's so beautiful. Also, if you've read any of Craig Thompson's graphic novels, like Blankets or Habibi, you'll love this. And the last book that I have to talk about, I actually literally just finished, literally got out of my bed, and here I am, Where She Went by Gayle Forman. I read If I Stay by Gayle Forman about 2 years ago, and this is the follow-up novel to that. And I'm really, really happy that I waited so long to follow up If I Stay with Where She Went. If I Stay deals with Mia, and she gets in a horrific car accident with her entire family, and everyone in the family dies except for her. She ends up being in a coma, and the entire story of If I Stay is told in Mia's perspective, but it's told pretty much like before the accident and then during her coma state. Where She Went takes place 3 years later, and it's told in Adam's point of view, which Adam was her love interest, and the story is told by before the accident and then 3 years later after the accident. So it has that same sort of structure going on. It was really, really cool seeing the story just like almost in real time change for me, just because for me it was 2 years and for them it was 3 years. And to see these characters grow in real time was really interesting. I also just kind of missed the first story, so I wanted to read this story. And I found that the thing that I liked most about it was the setting. Like, the entire landscape was New York City. That's where the story mainly took place. And everything about it was so beautiful. Gayle Forman did such a good job of describing New York City. But the thing that made If I Stay so special was Mia's family. And Mia's family is not in this one because Mia's family is all gone. So heartbreaking. The story wasn't heartbreaking, the fact that they weren't there was heartbreaking for me, and it made this one less enjoyable for me because I really loved reading about her entire family in If I Stay, and they just weren't there this time, and they kept mentioning the family offhand, and it just made me realize that they weren't there and I wasn't reading about them. During the end of If I Stay, I cried like 3 different times because her family members were going up to her and saying such lovely things. Just the emotional pull wasn't there this time, so it wasn't great for me, and I gave it 2.5 stars. I gave a lot of things 2.5 to 2 stars this time, and I totally realized that, and I never used to give 2-star ratings. But the fact that I realized that I can give half stars, 2.5 seems like it's halfway, like it's average, it's good. So, decent follow-up, didn't have the heart that the first one did. And that's it. That was a super long video, so I really apologize. I'm not reading anything at the moment because, like I said, I just finished Where She Went, but the next book that I'm hoping to pick up is On Writing by Charles Bukowski. In the comments, let me know what you guys are reading down below because I'm always curious, and if you have read any of these books, let me know your thoughts and feelings of them down below, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!